Ladies and gentlemen, we are live!
Straight from the East Coast, former pro wrestler turned MMA enthusiast, exclusively on Nick Portella MMA, this is the Finished Podcast with Sean Lazarus.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So it's your boy, Sean Lazarus here. We're going to talk about a couple cool things. I'm just going to start it off. You know what? No introduction. I'm just going to go right into it here. We're going to talk to Dana White. Well, I'm not going to talk to Dana White, but, you know, we got Dana White here on YouTube.
Paul Heyman said that Brock Lesnar could come out and wipe out the whole heavyweight division right now. You think that's actually possible? Can Brock Lesnar wipe out Stipe and
Stipe is pretty tough. Stipe is pretty tough, you know. I think Brock's under contract though right now, and you know. But
you foresee him coming back?
I'd like to see it.
You like to see him?
Yeah, I'd like to see him come back.
Have you talked to him or?
Brock's been fun. When Brock Lesnar, won the championship, it was fun.
Right.
Yeah, he was fun.
Yeah. Okay, so, well, there you have it. Dana White wants Brock back. I think Brock wants to be back. I think Brock's going to do whatever the hell Brock wants to do, to be perfectly honest with you. I think anything Brock does is primetime news, you know. I think if you talked about it right, Brock Lesnar in a bowling tournament is going to draw a crowd, okay? And people are going to tune in to see it. It'll make bowling mainstream ESPN again. Brock is just he's a freak. He's a freak athlete. He's a freak. He's just must see. He's a must see. He's just a freak. Anything he does, it just draws attention. I think that him in the UFC, it's a good thing for the UFC right now. Maybe a good thing for Brock right now. I don't know. I know there's WWE contracts coming up. I believe it ends at WrestleMania. I mean, what more are they really going to do with him anyway? You know, he's a big draw for them, and he's kind of they kind of bill him as he kind of has a prize fighter kind of gimmick. He doesn't really show up every week. Hell, he might not show up for a month or two at a time. But, he does his 20, 30, 40 appearances a year, something like that. I don't even know if it's that, to be honest with you. Makes a truckload full of cash, gets in, gets out. And same thing with UFC. I think what happened, the way it went down with Mark Hunt and him getting popped for steroids. Now, I'd still consider him beating Mark Hunt. It is what it is. Mark Hunt can say what he wants to. It's no diss to Mark Hunt whatsoever. So please, if Mark, you're listening, this isn't a diss to you at all. Don't hurt me. Excuse me. If Brock being juiced to the gills, I get that. He was all juiced up. But let's be honest, when Mark Hunt fought Curtis Blades not that long ago, his wrestling really didn't look that much better than it did when he fought Brock. I mean, I know Brock's a bigger, stronger guy than Curtis is, but it's interesting. I maybe you should have worked on your wrestling a little more, Mark. I mean, that's not go. Please, I'm not trying to insult you. Please, it is what it is. Mark Hunt, you're the man. Brock's the man. They're just the man in different ways. I don't know. I don't know what it means for UFC. They need Brock right now. I think they need Brock more than ever, and I think it's a shame that with the recent news of Jon Jones with his hearing, I think it'll be interesting what happens with that. So we know that the California Athletic Commission they're not going to they're going to suspend his license. They're not going to renew it once it comes up for available in August. And I'm pretty sure he probably won't be able to fight in California anymore. And then they had like a $200,000 fine, something like that. Him not being able to fight in California, Does it kind of suck for the people in California? Yeah, but let's be honest. It is what it is. It's not too big. It's not too crucial. I mean, it's a slap, but it's not too crucial, right? There's still Nevada. There's still all these other states. The big states, Nevada and New York now. And I just don't. That's not too big of a deal in itself. But with him talking about John talking about that he some of the tutorials that USADA, the mandatory tutorials that USADA puts the fighters through. Supposedly he told well, not supposedly, he did. He told his managers went through the tutorial and then forged his name to make it look like he went through the tutorial. That's a huge no-no. That's forgery. I'm sure those documents are legal documents, right? That's a big deal. I think, sorry, I think he messed up, and I'm sure there's a coming back for John. I just don't know when. The UFC needs him in 2018. Needs him. I mean, they got the big show coming up in July. Well, I mean, 223 is stacked. I think that's going to be a huge show for them. Huge show. I mean, 222 looks good coming up. Some may disagree, but I like the card coming up on Saturday. I really do. The whole thing, top to bottom. I'm really looking forward to the Frankie Edgar Brian Ortega fight. I think a lot of people are counting Edgar out. I think they're looking for Frankie Edgar to kind of pass the torch to Ortega. I think a lot of people expect that. Since Ortega's on a tear right now, and they're just expecting him, I think, to kind of steamroll over Edgar. But I think Edgar just kind of has some of those intangibles that you can't really teach. I think it's kind of cliche when people say, "Oh yeah, he has heart," blah blah blah, but he really does. He has an intangible. He has that what do they call that, indomitable spirit kind of thing. I think Edgar pulls through, and not only does he pull through, I think he knocks out Brian Ortega. That's just me. Call it crazy. I think he knocks him out. I think his grappling, obviously, his jiu-jitsu may not be up to par with Ortega, but his grappling, I think, should be enough to defend him from getting it on the ground. Well, not to say that Ortega can't stand up, and not to say that Ortega can't submit you from standing up, as we all learned that with Cub, but that freaking guillotine out of nowhere, standing up. So that doesn't really mean a whole heck of a lot. But yeah. Anyways, I digress. With Jon Jones, it's a crucial time. He needs to come back, especially towards the fall. There's 222, 223. There's the Chicago show. Looks like it's beefing up right now. Of course, you have the big show with Stipe and Cormier in July. That's gonna be huge. And then later in the year, there's nothing really. Hopefully Conor comes back. He says he is. Hopefully Conor comes back and fights a couple times. I'd like to see him fight. I'd like to see him fight in the summer. And I'd like to see him fight on the MSG card. Probably in November or so. I think that would be a really, really ideal situation for the UFC and for him. I don't know who. I'd say he fights. Like to see him fight the winner of Khabib and Tony on the July card, and then possibly, I don't know, maybe another super fight on the November card. Who knows? Who freaking knows? Nobody. I think John gets suspended for about 2 years, and that's gonna be a huge blow for them. Kind of coming back. I'm kind of working my way around, so bear with me. I know that they've been talking about Brock and Jon Jones. We know that Brock Lesnar still has time left to serve on his USADA suspension. He has to get back into the testing pool, and then I believe it's 6 months of active, 6 months at least in the testing pool to finish out his. Sorry about that. 6 months in the testing pool to finish out the rest of his suspension, and then he can fight. So say if he jumps in and WrestleMania is in April. Let's say April, October, September. That'll leave him. I would say that would put him in a prime spot to be back in time by the MSG for the MSG card. If historically they're kind of going by the same thing historically, they'll probably do MSG in November like they have the last 2 years in a row. And he usually likes to build pretty big cards come November. But I don't know. It'll be an interesting year. It will be. I think UFC had a pretty good year last year. Maybe not compared to the previous year because that's when you had the two, Conor fights, and those are just huge. They were just huge fights. They came out of nowhere. They were what we didn't know we wanted, and they were just big business, right? Brock is going to be big business. When Jon comes back, he's still going to be big business. I don't think this suspension hurts him, but so much. I really don't. I think it's going to make people want to see him that much more. I think he needs a new team around him. Whoever is his personal management. I'm not talking about so much his fight team, his actual trainers, but maybe his management. Maybe his management, his agents. I'm sure he has them. Maybe people around him, his inner circle, really need to. I hate the phrase, like get your shit together kind of thing. I really do. But maybe he just needs somebody that's going to be a little more stern with him. I don't know how his management team acts with him now. I don't know if they. I don't know. I don't know Jon. I don't know his circle. I don't know how he acts. You always hear that once you kind of get the kind of too big for your britches kind of thing, and that's a kind of a southern expression, but maybe he's getting too big for his britches. Maybe maybe he's kind of doing his own thing and not listening to the advice of anybody, and he just needs maybe somebody to put him in check. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's not true. Maybe he's completely legit. I don't know. I like Jon. I want to see Jon get better. I want to. Him getting popped. It's a shame, but I think it is what it is. I'm not justifying it by any means, but he did it. It's done. He has served time. I'm sure this isn't a picnic for him. I think everybody wants to talk about how much. Everyone wants to talk about how much it sucks for Jon not to fight and how terrible it is and blah blah blah. But I mean, let's be honest. Let's put yourself in Jon's shoes. You've, a huge portion of the MMA community just shits on him on a weekly basis. They just shit on him. That can't be fun. I mean, the guy messed up. We messed up. I mess up. I'm not in that spotlight, so I don't have millions of people shitting on me on a daily, weekly basis. I know he's a tough dude, but he's human. That stuff's gotta wear on you. I don't think people really think about that. I don't know. I think I hope he gets better. I hope all that stuff gets worked out. I hope it's the bare minimum suspension so he can get back in the UFC and do what he does best. Because there are way too many fights, there are way too many fights that we could be making with him. And he needs to be in there. He really does. That's his home. That's where he needs to be. But as far as Brock and Jon Jones go, Brock's got to get there first. John's got to get there first. And I think once they both get there, I think it's happening. And I think anybody really expects Brock to win. But then again, Brock's probably going to have 50, 60 pounds on the guy, even with Jones, bumping up to heavyweight. But I don't know. Tell me what you think. That's just kind of my thoughts. Sorry for the kind of rambling. Just kind of wanted to put my thoughts out there. I know this isn't your typical podcast. I'm sure you've seen the last couple ones. We're going to be having a full-blown podcast, maybe hour and a half long, coming up. So we're just kind of doing these short videos. So my apologies for that, but a full podcast is coming. We got a guest list on the way, and we're going to have all that out for you shortly. We got some big names. On the list. So I don't want to spoil anything. I want you guys to be surprised, but I'm going to get that list out to you as soon as everything is 100% confirmed, because I don't want to say so-and-so is going to be coming on and it just not happen and everybody gets disappointed and ticked off. But leave me a comment. Tell me right there. I like doing that. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys want to see. Let me know if there's anything you're interested in. Anybody in particular want me to talk about, stuff like that. Please, tell me, hey, I don't like that stupid hat you're wearing, which I don't know how anybody could dislike this hat right here. But subscribe, please leave a comment, check out the Facebook. All the links are down below. Support us on Patreon so we can keep bringing you the best content available. Check out nickportellasmma.com for all your MMA news needs. And that's all I got. I'll see you later, guys.